Hello. We are talking about finding simplicity, which is probably something I talk about a lot in a way, but the path of awakening or relaxation, it is one of kind of coming to terms with these concepts, coming to terms with the mind, coming to terms with our body, coming to terms with realization or reality. So we're kind of coming in here as a way of connecting, it's a way of opening up, it's a way of listening. It's kind of also kind of looking at the mind. We can learn techniques, or we can be told what needs to be done, what is the perfect way to awaken, or perfect way to relax, or perfect this or that. And yet we might still forget that we also kind of need to listen to see, are we just swallowing some guru's teaching, or are we just kind of like taking everything and just doing our own thing, following our ego, following ourselves? Then we're kind of just blind to the teacher or blind to ourselves, because we're kind of we think that ourselves or the teacher are like perfect and thus is always able to give you perfect advice. So that's kind of a little bit of the complications that we meet in life, that we can feel that people can give us advice. Many people want to be our teacher, but you can sometimes feel like their advice doesn't really resonate with you. And sometimes you will just kind of block every advice because you just feel very special and want to just figure everything out yourself. So we have these extremes of kind of engaging with life. So and these aspects are kind of a little tricky, the opposite of simplicity, but it's the acknowledgement that we have an ego. We are connected to life in a way, to our energy, to our body, to our emotions, to our mind. We have, and this ego is kind of, it's like a safety net for us. But this ego is only what we see from the beginnings, maybe like just 10%, like 1/10 a piece of a pie. So the rest is kind of unconsciously stored in us. And when we're young, we might think that that's a lot of the stuff we see in others and we don't like, or we don't this or that. That might still be part of our own ego. If you have lived longer, you might have suddenly experienced thoughts and emotions and physical sensations that you might have, it's taken longer to suddenly acknowledge. So you might have experienced more of the pie, more of the ego. So that's why sometimes when you talk about this, some people kind of connect more with the mind, some people more with the emotions, some people more with the physical body, some people more with sexuality, some people more with the spirit, some people more with the soul. So then everybody's kind of coming in from different angles into the art of relaxation, or the art of being. Thus, it's going to look kind of a little different for every person. So we come here, and for some people, we kind of feel like, yeah, my life is pretty good. And you feel connected with society. And then often that means that your ego is very attuned with society, so that society acknowledges your ego and your way of connecting to your body and your way of connecting to your emotion. All the stuff is kind of so you get acceptance. And we kind of like acceptance. If you suddenly are like more, your ego is more like thoughts that society deem as negative or as wrong in different ways, then you can feel like left out. You feel different. Sometimes you can be like, oh, I feel special, but but it just means that your piece of the pie that you awaken in your ego might not totally fit. And this might be a good thing, because that might actually lead you to kind of venture into awakening a little earlier, awakening more of your ego or earlier. While some people just kind of leave society and become very separate, just want to live on your own little island with your servants and with your money and just kind of be like detached. But eventually, no matter if you have a special ego or a very normal ego, if you open up that it's only like a tenth of a piece of pie on every level, then from this place of stability, it feels safe within the ego. When you follow ego, it feels like you feel safe. Whether you whether that means that you're living this kind of life or that kind of life doesn't matter. If you are very clumsy or you're very perfect, doesn't matter. You're you know yourself, so you feel like this is how you are. So here we are kind of addressing the ego, because the focus here is to connect with the body, because all these levels, mind, emotion, body, sexuality, spiritual, soul, all this stuff is connected in the body, and they're kind of unconsciously connected. So sometimes you might feel that this is you, but sometimes you actually might feel like, well, that's my mom, or that's my dad, or that's my friend. But you have kind of created a big piece of pie. So this ego is kind of connected to all the thoughts, all the emotions, all the ways of having a body that exists kind of like in the universe, in the world. So thus, through this ego, we are connected to everything. And if we dare to open to this reality, this potential, then you might start to experience that you start seeing the stuff you like, the stuff you are acknowledging as the ego, and then you might start seeing new parts of yourself. So that kind of starts creating kind of more of a fluid identity. People like to talk about identity these days. But it kind of creates more, your ego kind of expands, so you can have both what you liked before, and then you can find new things you like of different things. So when you open up to this ego, you actually you kind of get some distance to the ego, and that's kind of, from there you can actually like relax, release. There's becomes this energy, this breath, this freedom, and then you kind of return a little bit more to your being. So when we talk about all these pieces, the more you kind of release and allow this entirety of the ego to come out, then you can also return more and more into the freedom of your being. And then gradually you will notice more and more that you are relaxed with the thoughts, relaxed with the emotions, relaxed with your body, relaxed with your sexuality, relaxed with your spirituality or your soul. So then you find this gradually more and more relaxation. So this journey is very easy, and yet also it can be quite uncomfortable because you can feel very naked when you suddenly are leaving. You're there to open up that what you know is not you. It means that there is potential to start seeing your body beyond what you know, experiencing your mind beyond what you know, experience the emotions beyond what you know, etc. So then that is where you kind of come to the bigger self, the bigger part of yourself, which is your being. So it's like you're moving beyond the self, beyond the body, beyond emotions, beyond energy, into the non-self, the non-body, the non-energy, into being. So that is the path. So that's to kind of open up to these things. You will acknowledge, you will realize that most teachings out there are kind of focused more on like one body type or one gender or one way of thinking about stuff or one way of experience reality. So sometimes when you test stuff out, you might realize that after a while, depending on if it's 1 day or 10 years or 30 years, you might realize it didn't totally fit you. But the beauty is that to realize that, we kind of have to dare to listen. So that is what we are doing here, because listening is kind of what you do in your being. You are listening, and you're not just grabbing every thought. You're not engaging with everything. You're letting it be. You're not letting it relax. You're taking time, and you're giving it patience and ease. So this is the act of grace. So we're kind of allowing ourselves the grace of being. So that is the journey that kind of can gradually awaken within us. So we kind of talk about all these things because we easily have been led into these pieces of the pie, the ego, that are unconscious, that are connected to our parents, society, all this stuff. And when they come up, that can kind of like knock you down pretty hard, because there's more energy coming in, there's thoughts, emotions that can be pretty intense, that requires you to dare to relax and just give it space to come in and breathe and relax and return or release or disappear, be forgotten again. So it's the path of forgetfulness, to remember everything, but also to forget it, because we kind of have to let all thoughts just be normal. So we can talk about relaxation or awakening, all that stuff, or the embrace of the Father, or bliss, or realizing the self, or feeling the wisdom of the body, or feeling love, finding love. All this stuff can be kind of very magical. But then when we kind of make it into something very special, then we're creating an ego instead of letting it be something very natural. This journey is so natural that it's been always been available, but just you kind of have to see that a lot of people get stuck, and people kind of are on different things. Even people, if they're a psychologist, or if they're a yogi, or if they're living longer, or whatever, they've had a family, or they're single, or they're gay, or whatever, they're like, they still struggle with these things, with their own things. So they can find clarity in something, but other pieces of the pie might still remain hidden. So this is kind of the invitation and the guidance into kind of daring to trust that we can allow the things that you don't feel are yourself, but still might affect your life. You might not even know it, but you might be very irritated on some people, and some kinds of behavior, and you you might not realize that you are still kind of in resistance with stuff. So you're to choose relaxation is to kind of choose to let people be, to let life be, and then in that space there is enjoyment. That's where all these pieces start coming in together, and you can start kind of growing into this being, returning into this being that you already are. So I use these words, I use different words every time because it's kind of everybody hears it and picks up different stuff. And it's not supposed to be, it's not the words that's the most important. It is the kind of connection. If you listen without trying to analyze and understand everything I'm saying, then you can kind of just allow yourself to kind of bathe in that bliss, in that grace, in that beingness that is you, that is available. so if you are listening to this and you followed me this far, then that is beautiful. Then maybe you're ready to kind of just allow the energy that is coming in. That means that you might be curious enough, stay open enough to kind of receive. It's like an embrace. So if you want to, you can close your eyes and kind of drop your shoulders a little bit and drop your hips and kind of allow yourself this embrace. The embrace of this wisdom, the embrace of this being that is you, the embrace of your body, the embrace of your ego, the embrace of your life that you're connected with. And then just let this embrace kind of just sink you down. It's like you're allowing the energy in, so let it sink all the way down into your feet, your knees, into your legs, into your ankles, into your toes. Kind of let it kind of sink in, letting this talk sink in. So whether this is the first time you hear me talk or the millionth time you talk, it's still, the brace is still there. Whether you feel anything or not, that's not so relevant. That's not the most important part. And let the energy come up again. Kind of goes all the way down and then it kind of flows up through the body. Yeah, and then it kind of comes up like a stretching or almost like just a yawn, returning to oblivion. Good, great. Got done for today. Thank you for the people showing up live, and other people will watch this later. And yeah, you can DM me or reach out through my Facebook or my Instagram if you have any questions, or if there's an interview or something that is wanted to be had. Anyway, I will talk to you guys later. Hope you have a beautiful Wednesday, guys. Bye.